Nobody told you what money actually does to a person. Not the number. The experience. What it feels like in your chest at £12,000 a year. What it does to your friendships at £30,000. What it costs you, that has nothing to do with money, when you finally hit £60,000 and realize you still feel behind. This is your life at every income level in Britain. And some of it is going to hit closer than you're expecting. Britain has a salary. The average full-time worker earns around £35,000 a year. That number is printed in headlines, used in budgets, and cited by politicians as proof that things are fine. But the average is a blurred photograph. It flattens everything real. It doesn't tell you what it's like to be on one side of that number or the other. It doesn't tell you what happens at £12,000, or £22,000, or why £50,000 in London feels like a slow emergency. This video is about the lived experience, the emotional arithmetic that never makes it into the headlines. We're going through 5 income levels, not as statistics, as a life, your life, or someone's life you recognize. £12,000 a year. You know this number not because you calculated it. You know it because it follows you everywhere. Into the supermarket. Into the group chat where everyone's planning a weekend away you can't afford to mention. Into every job listing you open that says 2 years experience required, for a role that pays the same as this one. After tax, you take home just over £1,000 a month. Your rent is £750. Not a flat. A room. In someone else's house, with someone else's rules and someone else's television through the wall until midnight. You shop at Aldi because Tesco is expensive now. Not the brand items, the basics. You pick up the yellow sticker meat after 7 p.m. Not because you plan to, because you've learned to plan around it. Your phone contract runs out this month. You switch to SIM only because the new handset is £35 a month and £35 is a week of food. You're on a 0 hours contract. Tuesday you got 8 hours. Wednesday you got a text saying don't come in. You didn't argue. You can't argue. Arguing at £12,000 has consequences that arguing at £60,000 doesn't. The council tax bill arrives. You already know what it says before you open it. You put it on the pile with the others that are half sorted, quarter sorted, almost sorted, never sorted. Your friends from school split into 2 directions. Some of them bought houses last year. You see it on Instagram, the keys, the doorstep photo, the caption about finally. You don't hate them. You just stop looking. The way you stop looking at a sun that's too bright to see clearly. You Google jobs at midnight. Every listing that pays more wants a degree. A portfolio. 2 years in a role you've never had access to. The trap isn't laziness. It's the architecture. The door has a lock that only opens from the other side. What keeps you awake isn't tonight. It's the question of whether tonight is just what every night looks like. Indefinitely. The first rule at £12,000. You don't manage money. Money manages you. Every decision, every hour, every small humiliation at the checkout. Money is the one making the choices. Level TWO, £22,000 a year. National living wage. Full-time. This is what doing everything right looks like for a lot of Britain. You move into your own flat. 1 bedroom. Small kitchen. A door that locks behind you and the silence on the other side belongs entirely to you. That silence feels like the most expensive thing you've ever owned. You fill your car with petrol properly for the first time in 18 months and sit there in the forecourt for a second. Longer than you need to. Because the feeling of the needle hitting full is something people at higher incomes will never understand. You can do a full food shop without doing the maths as you go. That sounds small. It isn't. But £22,000 in a city that charges £950 for a 1-bed is still tight. The panic of £12,000 is gone, replaced by something duller. A low awareness. A background hum that says 1 bad month and this gets fragile again. The boiler breaks in January. Your landlord takes 3 weeks. You sleep in your coat. You're paying into a pension you never think about. National insurance. Student loan repayments that eat £30 a month for a degree you're not sure helped. Council tax. Utilities. the TV license that still somehow exists. By the end of the month, you have about £180 left. Not nothing, but not enough to feel safe. You're not surviving anymore, but you're not building either. You're standing on a floor that holds, which is more than you had before, but the ceiling is still there, just above your head. The second rule at £22,000. You stop drowning, but you haven't learned to swim. You're floating. And floating takes more energy than anyone who's never had to do it will ever admit. Level 3, £30,000 a year. You did it. Above average, just. You have a job title that means something, a pension your employer matches, and a commute that's long but manageable. You go for the meal deal without checking the price. Boots, Pret, Greggs, it doesn't matter anymore. £3.50 doesn't register. And yet, you run the numbers one evening. 30,000 over the next 20 years. Same raises. Same inflation. The number at the end is survivable. Not exciting. Survivable. You look at what a house costs. In your city, maybe £230,000. Maybe £280,000. On your salary, with a 10% deposit, you'd need to save for 7 years without touching it. You've been saving for 2. Something always comes up. The car. The dentist. Your boiler again. Your colleague earns £48,000. Same desk. Different team. You found out by accident in a conversation that ended too quickly. You can't unfind it. The gap between £30,000 and £48,000 isn't just money. It's a different timeline. A different version of the next 5 years. A different answer to the question, will I ever own somewhere? You're not complaining. You know what £12,000 looked like. You remember the yellow sticker meat, the card you held your breath over, the room with someone else's noise through the wall. You're grateful. But gratitude and ambition live in the same body, and sometimes they argue. The third rule at £30,000. This is the level that breaks your sense of fairness. You're doing everything right, and it still doesn't quite add up. And nobody warned you that doing fine could feel this unsatisfying. Level 4, £45,000 to £55,000 a year. Something changes. Not just in the account, in the mornings. You wake up and money isn't the first thought. It's there, still present, but it's not leading anymore. For the first time, you think about what you want before you think about what you can afford. You book a flight without waiting for a sale. You buy the good olive oil. You upgrade to a 2-bedroom and turn the spare room into something that feels like a choice. But you hit 50k and Britain does something interesting to your payslip. You enter the 40% tax bracket. You earn £50,000. You take home about £37,000. Which means the raise. You work 3 years. For delivered less than half of what you expected. You're not rich. You know that. But you're also not relatable anymore, not fully, to the friends still at £22,000 who are planning holidays on credit cards and asking you to split the bill when you suggested the place. You start paying for things in the group to smooth it over. Not because you want to. Because the alternative is a silence that's harder to sit in. The gap isn't financial between you anymore. It's experimental. And that gap is quieter and stranger and lonelier than the money gap ever was. The fourth rule at £45,000. This is where money gets quiet, and in that quiet, you notice what money was hiding. The friendships. The comparisons. The version of yourself you thought you were building toward. And the question of whether you're actually getting closer. Level 5, £65,000 to £100,000 a year. In Birmingham, this is genuinely comfortable. In London, this is survival money in a nice jacket. You have a mortgage, an actual mortgage, with your name on it, on something that will, probably, hopefully, be worth more than you paid for it. You have a pension that's building. A car that doesn't have a warning light, you've learned to ignore. A savings account that isn't immediately zero the month something breaks. People call you successful now. You don't correct them. But the word fits the way a suit fits when it's not quite your size. Fine from a distance. Because at £65,000, you can see the people above you clearly for the first time. Not the millionaires. The people earning £120,000, £150,000. The people who aren't choosing between the 2-bed and the 3-bed. They are just choosing the 3-bed. And you realize that the distance you felt from £12,000 looking up at yourself now, they feel that same distance looking at the people above them. The game doesn't end. The levels don't stop. They just get quieter and more expensive. You start asking different questions now. Not can I afford this? But is this what I wanted? And that second question is harder. Because at £12,000, you were too busy surviving to ask it. Now you have the space to ask it. And the answer isn't always yes. The fifth rule at £65,000. Financial comfort doesn't solve the question. It just creates the quiet you need to finally hear it. And sometimes the question is harder than the struggle ever was. Somewhere right now, someone is standing at a self-checkout in a Tesco. In Hull or Leeds, or Salford. They are putting back the pack of chicken because the total has gone over budget. They are not making a scene. Nobody is looking. But something happens in a person when they do that. Something that isn't about the chicken. And somewhere else, someone just got promoted to £60,000 and cried in their car. Not with happiness. With the strange grief of realizing the arrival didn't feel like they thought it would. Both of those things are happening right now in Britain. Simultaneously. That's what this channel is about. The part of financial life that doesn't make it onto the spreadsheet. If this is hitting somewhere real for you, subscribe. We're going to keep going deeper into these conversations. The truth nobody says. Here's what nobody tells you about the income ladder in Britain. The psychological cost of being at the bottom isn't just about money. It's about invisibility. It's the way a room full of people talks past you when you tell them where you work. The way certain conversations stop being relevant. The way a country talks about hard work and ambition while building a housing market that would have been unrecognizable to your parents. The average house price in Britain is over £285,000. The average full-time salary is £35,000. The maths of home ownership, for a generation who entered the job market after 2008, does not add up without family money or exceptional luck. That's not a complaint. That's arithmetic. And what it produces, at every income level we walked through today, is a low-grade anxiety. A background hum. A sense that you're behind, even when you don't know what being ahead would look like. That hum is the real cost. Not just in Britain. Across every country where a generation was told the formula worked. Study, work, save, arrive, and found out, incrementally, quietly, that the formula had changed without anyone announcing it. The question isn't whether you earn enough. The question is whether the story you were told about what was possible was ever true. And what you do with the answer to that. That's where life actually starts. I want to know where you are on this. Not the number. You don't have to say it. But which level hit differently? Which rule landed? Leave it in the comments. Even just a number. I read every one. If this video meant something to you, share it with someone who needed to hear it. Not to explain your situation. Just to say, someone made this. And it's accurate. New video soon. Same kind of honesty. Subscribe. If you want to be there when it drops.